Good morning, everybody. My name is Pierre Roberge. I am CEO at Arcadia, and today I have the opportunity and the privilege to share with you one of my concerns. It is a security concern, and we shall dive into it. I want to talk about the illusion of closed platform security, and by this I mean systems that we don't have access to monitor, to verify its integrity. A good example would be an airplane. Chris Roberts recently hacked into an airplane, and I think we should all be thankful to him in a way. And I'm not justifying his acts, but he apparently was able to hack the airplane from a passenger seat all the way to systems that control the autopilot system. Doing so, and probably not believing it himself, he slightly raised the speed of one of the engine. And because the plane was on autopilot, it had the plane actually slide or go sideways, if I can say, because the wings were compensating for the difference in the engines. So he actually took control of the plane for a moment or a few moments. I'm sure he did not want to die himself. But, you know, just thinking for a second that the systems are interconnected all the way to the autopilot is a strong message about closed platform security. If someone would have come to me and said, we will connect the entertainment system with the autopilot system in any physical way by any mean, I would have told them, are you out of your mind, right? Well, apparently this is the case on those airplanes. I did not verify the information, but it is the claim of the FBI. It's very hard to understand those security systems, so I try to find something we can all relate to, understand in the physical world. The central bank of Brazil at Fortaleza was emptied of its vault in 2005 for apparently a value of $160 million. The robbers rented this space, apparently, at least this is what I can find on Google, and they converted this place in a little commerce, pretending that they were running a landscaping business. This place is about 100 meters away from the building we see at the back there, slightly, which is the central bank. And they started digging a tunnel to make it all the way under the vault. And looking at the picture, it's quite far, and I did a Google Street Map thing. So I calculate it's 110 meters. Authorities, some stories say 280, does not really matter. Those people dug a tunnel under all those buildings and a major boulevard, all the way under the central bank, to make it to the money. Now, my point today, and where I want to relate this is to me the blind spot. And they needed a time, a window of opportunity to actually break through the vault and take the money out of it, because it was cash they wanted to take out of the place. They decided to do that on a weekend where the security enforcement was at the minimal. Obviously, or probably they had some internal help, but the point here is that at some point in time, and it was a weekend, the security was at minimal forces. Okay, let's think about that for a second. You and me and the handyman in this place probably could break in the box on the left with tools at home. The one on the right, we could say, I'll go rent some equipment, I'll probably make it through. But this is beyond my capabilities. My point here is, this looks like impenetrable with, you know, a bit of surveillance, right? But those people actually dug the tunnel all the way to this, not this place, but a place like this, and they actually made a hole in the floor to make it to the vault. What I want to outline here is it is not because I don't know how to steal this place that there are no people who think about it. And they find ways to exploit the blind spot. They needed 3 days because $160 million worth in Brazil cash money is 3.5 tons of paper. Now, if you think about that for a second, it does not fit in my backpack. Maybe yours. But anyway, it took them the full weekend to actually empty the vault from the cache. Which leads me to explaining to you what is the blind spot on the actual systems nowadays. All of our tablets, or most of them, and our smartphones are like this. They're set up like this. You have at the top what is called the user mode land, where all of your applications run. Then you have a part that is also in the user mode that's called the system, and then you have the kernel a bit lower. Here, just taking a few minutes to explain how someone can make it to the blind spot. And by the way, from the blind spot, you have access to the whole system with maybe a bit further hacks. But if you want to copy emails or crypto keys or passwords, typically always possible to do that from the kernel going back up in the user mode. As we've seen earlier and others have talked about, a typical attack vector will be through the browser, which will be the initial exploit. This exploit will gain control of the CPU over your tablet or your smartphone, but will be in what we call the sandboxing and new security feature. And I want to thank the industry for this, for securing the phones so much that we forgot to look into them. They put secure boot mechanisms, they've put sandboxing, digital signature check on the boot chain, all great improvements for security. So those people, to bypass those security, will most likely use the CPU to connect somewhere else to download a second exploit, which will then be executed from the browser to exploit and gain execution within the system or directly in the kernel. Some chains of exploit kits will take 2, 3, 4 exploits to make it all the way to actually gain execution within the blind spot. Now, from the blind spot, and this is my message today, we have no means to look in the kernel of those tablets because the manufacturer said, I will prevent anything from being loaded there. But it does not mean because you or me don't know how to do that, that it is not possible. Okay? So in theory, and in practice I've seen it, it is possible to gain execution at those levels. And once you're there, you can then extract data for fun and profit, right? Then we all say, okay, but why would someone do that? And I want to talk specifically about that level of hacking and to understand where the why and the what's and where it comes from. Corporate espionage. If you Google if you search on Google for the top 10 corporate espionage, you'll see it's amazing. Corporations go through extensive measures, some of them, to actually gain an advantage over the adversaries. So intellectual property here, when I say patent, I mean your intellectual property, your secrets and your technology. Contracts negotiation, or any strategies that has an impact. So who's laughing here? And my question stands, what if one of those people, and I think it's this guy over there, but had access to the systems, right? He had access to your contract strategy, your negotiation strategy, or if it was in the case of bidding, and in international business, some businesses are bidding in millions for resources. What if your competitor knew beforehand what was your strategy, right? The value is as high as the bank vault, but in the hands of people who have really much more resources probably than those thieves. Confidential information, I refer to governments who don't want some information to be revealed, so classified information. Blackmailing, any personal information that can lead to blackmailing and have someone do the bidding for you. Medical information is very sensitive. Insurance companies have come to us and talk and revealed they actually have paid a lot of money. I'm not going to give numbers, but maybe not as high as that central bank, but fairly big amount of money to actually buy out people who actually stole medical information from their files. And so many others. I mean, you can hack an online poker site and know the hands of others. You can hack to steal bitcoins, and some have stolen a whole lot of bitcoins. Critical infrastructure. Like, it's foreseeable that you can blackmail a government in exchange of threatening of breaking critical infrastructure. Stealing source code's been done and paid. Some businesses paid 200 million in fees for doing so in corporate espionage. I mean, and so many others, right? Lawyer's defense. What if you come to court on a really, really big case and people know your intimate secrets about your strategies, network diagrams to go further hacking somewhere else? Your neighbor country, Lithuania, has a new system that is a really good example of a closed platform security. It relies on a SIM card or a Java card. That is a closed platform security. It is not possible to verify the integrity of this SIM card. Okay, so I think we understand the motives. What about, but who would do that? Who would do that? And I covered that a little bit earlier, your competitors. I don't know what Apple and Google are doing against each other. Maybe they're nice to each other. Maybe they're not. Maybe they pull out their lightsabers and have a fight. I don't know. State-sponsored hacking, to me, it feels like we're against the empire as the rebels. Very, very powerful governments actually hacking on behalf of their corporation to give them the advantage on the international scene. The opportunist, a smart guy who sees, I think something's valuable there and I see an easy hack, so I'll go and I'll do it. Hacktivism has been covered before. Political motivation can lead to very strong technical advancement to achieve their goal. Okay, so we have an idea of the who and the for what. Why don't we see this malware? Why it's not under our nose while we all think our smartphones are secure? It's because they're precious. Developing this technology took them a lot of resources and time and investment to find. And if it is revealed, the manufacturers will patch the bug that they're exploiting to actually exploit the platform. It's very precious to them, maybe to the point of becoming like this. But essentially, that's part of it. The other part of it is because it's so precious, and one way it can be revealed is by breaking your smartphone. So they take extra care in making sure their exploits and their toolkits are very solid and unfindable, or really, really hard to find, because when it is exposed, they lose this access, they lose this technology that they've been using for years to exploit their competitors, other countries, etc. In conclusion, to me, we're all walking around with smartphones and tablets and other devices, airplanes, that are like leaving a safe full of cash in the middle of the salt lakes or a field somewhere and walking away thinking it is safe. To me, obviously, someone at some point will break in the safe, take the money, and go away. My question to the industry, or my challenge is, and I'm asking everybody here and everybody who's listening, is I think it is time to reconsider this closed platform security. We need to ask the vendors of our phones the possibility of being able to actually verify the integrity of our systems, which is something that has not been allowed for many years now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Questions, please? Do I see hands? Yeah, I see a hand. It's doing this one. Okay, do you want to raise it and ask your question? Okay, here's one.
So, assuming that Apple doesn't care, Google doesn't care, nothing will change. So what do you think would be any other option in order to secure a smartphone? Way I see it is that about the only thing that an organization can do is to monitor traffic that is going to and from the phone and limit that very heavily. But do you have any other options?
Yeah, and very good question. Thank you. Monitoring the traffic, as you know, has its limits. If someone is exfilling over Gmail accounts and you allow your employees to access their Gmail accounts, it's really hard to differentiate, the good ones from the bad ones. So we're left in this really, really blind spot. I know organizations that have decided to break the secure boot process to be able to load their own security software to be able to verify the integrity of the system. So it is a trade-off at the moment. My message to those manufacturers is to allow those same customers to be able to sign some security products that can do that telemetry or those verification. But yeah, at the moment we're left with the choice of two bads, right? One is leaving the blind spot, the other one is breaking, for example. I mean, you can take a Google phone, open the bootloader, and then you can load anything as root on the device, but then you don't prevent anybody else from doing it. So this is where we stand, and it is, to me, a really big problem.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes?
Yeah, hi, my name is Andrei Stvetkos from Sidek Industries, and actually, don't you think that the main problem actually is not covered in the reasons and who will hack, but like the problem and main question, who will protect? So actually, don't you think that nowadays we experience a big lack of IT professionals actually in all fields, and the lack of knowledge in secure coding that is actually exposing all the operational systems and mobile devices? Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting philosophical question. In the business, we have an IT security department to take care of security because other people who do the trades don't know about IT security. Or maybe a simpler example is I hire someone to make my brick wall at home because if I make the brick wall, I fear it might fall on my children because I don't know how to make this. So we need to rely on the IT security industry. I guess it falls back to herding. Humans herd together to achieve goals. So in this case, you could trust Arcadia or another security vendor with such an access to your devices on the trade-off of privacy, right? Because you decide that for you, it is more important to have someone helping you watching the security of your device compared to having this blind spot. So, but it is a privacy trade-off. I agree.
Okay, any more? Good. Then before we dismiss you, I have one very last one. Now, you mentioned then two examples. One was the airplane and another one was the vault. And coming back to the concept of sandboxing, I don't imagine this guy from the passenger seat hacking into some electromagnetic frequencies from some inner systems, etc. It was probably the free Wi-Fi it was offered on the plane. How come these solutions were connected even in the first place, not absolutely sandboxed? And the vault case, I mean, it was hacked especially because it was sandboxed. So can you elaborate on this one?
Can I what, sorry? What is the question?
Can you elaborate on this one, on sandboxing everything or quite opposing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the process of sandboxing on the phones is, how can I say, it's like virtualization. What the manufacturers try to do is to protect the browser from accessing the mail, for example, or the other applications from accessing each other's data. So they put in place measures like the safe to prevent this from happening. And really, there's not much more to it. In the case of the airplane, just to comment on this, Chris, and I learned that recently from Mikko's presentation, he had to sit in seat 4A to open a box and connect to it. But really, it was to save him times, I think, from doing it from the Wi-Fi. Like nothing, if this system is all together, I would think it's possible maybe from the Wi-Fi, but we don't know. But remains the fact that it was connected. And here, we cannot disconnect those components from each other. They're all together. I mean, in the airplane, it is possible to go and just say, well, this just doesn't make any sense. We'll unplug the cables from each other, right? It's, no people from passenger seats should be able to access anything in the cabin, right, physically. In this case, we cannot, right? So manufacturers and software developers are trying to come out with ways to prevent this from happening. Very, very old systems or very modern systems like the rovers on Mars don't have sandboxing. They don't have virtualization. They have a one flat system space access. If you hack in the land rover, you have access to everything. There's no other security measures. So in this case, because we cannot disconnect the kernel from the user mode, we cannot disconnect the blind spot from the user mode, then we have to find ways to live together. But I don't know if I'm answering the question.
Yeah, I was more like about when is it good and when is it bad and does more damage, but I can't think myself of any examples where it could damage something, do more bad.
I see.
Okay, let's give a nice applause to Pierre. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
you can grab here in the break. And now we are going for the quick coffee break. And we have to be back exactly 10 minutes past 11. Because the first speaker, Jarno Niemela from F-Secure Labs, will have to catch a plane. So he will be able to catch that plane. We have to start exactly on time and finish exactly on time. Thank you very much.